Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Elio, and we are here with the brilliant AxMinster. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining. So, could you introduce yourself and what you do?
I'm Steve Serra. I'm the lead guitarist. Well, not lead guitarist. I'm the guitarist and singer for the band AxMinster. We're from Boston. I'll give you a quick 411 on how we got our name, because people are probably saying, hey, AxMinster, it's a town in the UK. We formed first in 1983. So that was like before the internet, before, Google and all that stuff. We were actually soundproofing our basement. And my bass player's dad worked for a carpet manufacturing company. So he gave us a bunch of pieces of copper. We were looking for a name. We were like 18 years old at the time. And so we were looking for a name for a band. And on the back of this piece of carpet that we hung up on the wall, it said AxMinster. Had no idea it was actually the manufacturer or it was a town in the UK. So we said, that sounds cool. That sounds badass. Let's hang it up on the wall. And there you go. And the name is stuck ever since. So that's how we ended up coming up with the name.
Cool. Yeah, at least funny you say that. Lisaboo, who's my head moderator, normally asks, "How did you come up with the name?"
That's it, and it stuck, and we just kept it. And we actually a couple of years ago, there's a festival in AxMinster called the Yardie Party. It's a big outdoor festival, and the mayor actually called us up because the AxMinster Heritage Museum found out that there was a band back in Boston called AxMinster. And they reached out to us. They wanted us to come to the UK and play this Yardie Party. So, that's something that's on the bucket list. We couldn't make it. It was right after COVID. I think it was 2023 or something. We couldn't make it at the time, but that's definitely on the bucket list to go to AxMinster. We won't have to get posters because it says AxMinster everywhere. So that's something we definitely would love to do.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so let's dive into some questions. As a kid, what were you listening to?
It was really, at the time you were just listening to pop radio. Every once in a while something kind of rock and roll would come on, like Rick Derringer's Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, or something from the Edgar Winter Group might pop on. But I think the whole thing really started when I heard Led Zeppelin on the radio. I was like, what is that? I want to know what that is. I got to figure out how to get that guitar sound, and I want a guitar and I want to play. And that was probably the first, real introduction. And the whole British invasion with, Jeff Beck, obviously Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. For the American bands, it was Aerosmith, which was kind of a little bit of a knockoff on the Rolling Stones a little bit. They had a little more of a hotter edge. But definitely the British sound was the sound, still is. I mean, those are some of the classic bands that everybody has kind of drawn from. And even the punk era, I mean, it's like as we were coming along, like bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and those bands, there always seemed to be something that was rolling in from Britain all the time that was influential. Even back to Priest and obviously Motorhead and those bands too. I mean, all those bands are so influential to everything that you hear here in the States.
I was going to say I've been listening to some of your music, especially with the new song. There is got that sort of like the British influence to your sound.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, Deep Purple, Machine Head. That's an album that we love. AC/DC, of course. I mean, everybody loves AC/DC, and I got to see them at the Paradise, which is a club here in Boston, 1978 with Bon Scott. So, you get to see bands like that in small venues, and you get to see how great they were. You could just tell that they were just club bands that knew how to play, knew how to get a rise out of the audience, and were just so dynamic, and you look at that and you say, that's what I want to do, So we've stayed kind of true to that kind of music. It's like we never really changed too much. It's kind of what we grew up on, and it's kind of what we play. We kind of, thankfully, it's still back in vogue, right? It's still cool to play that stuff.
Yeah. It is.
Because people say all the time, you sound like bands from the 70s and the 80s. And I'm like, oh, we're from the 70s and the 80s. So that's why we sound like bands like that.
Yeah. Who actually got you into sort of like listening to music in general? Was it your parents or a sibling, or was it sort of like a journey of self-discovery?
My parents were always very cool about music. Obviously, when you're in junior high school, kids are starting to bring in records that their brothers and sisters have, or you go over their house and you're listening to stuff. And I would take those records home, and my parents were always great about listening to stuff. My mom was a huge Queen fan, loved them. So we get to play the Sweet too, another band that fantastic. We used to play them all the time, and we listened to that stuff. So I was always encouraged. There was always music around the house. The Beatles, obviously, all that stuff was around, and it was just a great time because radio was so cool. And you remember when you grabbed the vinyl, you'd open it up and you'd want to read all the liner notes. You'd want to read everything that was in there. You'd play the record front to back. You know what I mean? Just front to back, you'd play the record and you'd listen to it over and over because that was a snapshot of where those bands were at the time. And just remember putting on those records and then trying to figure out slowing the record down to 16 to try to figure out how to play a Jeff Beck lick, or try to figure out the solo in Heartbreaker, right? Zeppelin 2. That was the stuff. I mean, it was like it was a group thing, right? You'd listen to stuff with all your friends, and you'd tear the album up and you'd listen to it front to back, and it was more of a community thing. I think that's one of the things that's lost a little bit. People are now they listen to music by themselves. It used to be more of a group thing. And when we started playing, I remember there was a band down the street. They were older guys and they were jamming and playing. And I'd go over and listen to them in their rehearsal place. And eventually they'd let you in, being a little kid, and you bring your guitar over, and the guitar player would show you a couple of bar chords and maybe show you a couple of licks. It was much more of a shared experience, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah. Jesse581 has just made a comment. Love vinyl. Had it growing up with my parents.
Yeah, my parents had a record collection of everything from Johnny Mathis and Elvis and all that stuff. So all those records were around the house and just added to the collection. And like I said, it was more like a family affair with all your friends and stuff when you would listen to records. Like you couldn't wait to get the new whatever album out, and you throw it on. And I just remember listening to stuff, and that was a cool thing, right? If you listen to stuff, you listen to it front to back. There was a whole thing there. You weren't jumping around on songs, you would listen because it was a collection of effort that was made by the band,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Lisaboo from Canada, she asked, "Oh yes, loved the insert on albums with pics and lyrics."
Oh yeah, right. Because then you'd study the lyrics and you'd look at everybody that played on the record and where it was recorded, and you knew the stuff front to back. And like I said, if you have a favorite band, when they did release that record, that was a snapshot in time, and that was the cool part of it, and vinyl sounds great still. I mean, it really does. It's hard because it's like not a lot of people have stereos anymore. I mean, because it just takes up so much room. But you put on a piece of vinyl, you take Led Zeppelin 2 and you put that on and you listen to that cranked up, and it has a feel to it. And stuff was recorded on tape and then pressed onto vinyl. It's just that the grooves, the fat grooves, they've got something that bass response is just there.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like vinyl is sort of like a completely different bass to a CD or a tape.
It's coming back, right? A little bit vinyl. People, it's kind of a collector's thing now, right? It's coming back. Oh, yeah. It's just expensive to do. I'd love to press something. It's just expensive to kind of get. At least I don't care if I made any money. If we broke even on it, it'd be great. But it's just that outpouring is a little expensive,
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So, out of all the bands that you've listened to over the years, and you have sort of like mentioned some of the bands, but who was your sort of like main influence to say, I like this. I like this band. I like this person. I want to get up on stage. I want to do that as a musician.
Well, it's. I mentioned Zeppelin and all those bands, but they were kind of they were already huge by the time I was 12 or 13. So the band that really influenced us the most was Aerosmith. I mean, there are Boston guys. They used to rehearse up the street. My guitar player Benny, he jammed with them. He his the girl that was singing in his band was the sister of Joe Perry's wife. He was Joe Perry's wife. That was her sister. So he got to jam with all of them, and they would play about a mile and a half up the street. There was a place called the Warehouse where they recorded the Rocks album. And we would just ride our bikes up there and put our ears up to the wall and listen to them practice. And the reason, not only that, was because Zeppelin was like, they were gods, right? But Aerosmith, I saw them at like the Franklin Park Zoo when I was a kid. So you could actually see a band progress and say, this is possible. I can do this, right? And so they were our homegrown guys. They took a little bit of the Stones. They took a little bit of a lot of the British stuff, and they kind of turned that blues rock thing into something that worked, and I got to see that band kind of progress from, playing small clubs all the way to, the Boston Garden. So that was a band that really was influential in being able to get me going and really wanted me to play.
Cool. Were you in any sort of like any bands prior to AxMinster?
Just kick around bands, you know what I mean? You got a cover band here or a band where you have a couple of friends, and usually somebody drops off and they can't continue. So AxMinster was probably the first real band that actually accomplished something, in a way. You have to find the individuals that have the same passion, not only in musical tastes, like Benny, the guitar player, who's he's fantastic, but we've got the same record collection, right? So when I explain something to him, if we're writing, and I say, yeah, it's it's off Sweet's Desolation Boulevard, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. If I say, yeah, I'm thinking of a solo kind of like Beck, on Beckola, that kind. Oh yeah, I know. So the language, you find people with similar language, and it becomes so much easier. People say, wow, it's great to have diversity. And it is. But I mean, if you're explaining a groove to a drummer and, when you sit down, you go, no, I'm looking for something like Mick Tucker on Solid Gold Brass off Desolation Boulevard. They know the track, right? They know the track right off the beat. So the language becomes easier, to kind of explain what you're thinking.
Yeah.
To answer your question, yes, I'm sorry. To answer your question, that was the first band that was like, yeah, these are guys that all want to do the same thing. We all have the same passion. We're all ready to go to work and spend some time trying to do this thing,
Cool. Yeah, I was going to say, once you sort of like find the right people, you go into some sort of like shorthand.
One more time. I'm sorry.
There's some sort of like shorthand for the when you said do you know the beat off this particular record, or he says it's sort of like shorthand.
Yeah, and and we just it's like I said, it becomes especially when you start writing original material. You start off playing cover material, and it's kind of like you're going to kind of pick the same songs, right? It's like, yeah, we're going to do Highway Star off of Machine Head. Yeah, we're going to do $1 Billion Babies off of Alice Cooper. Yeah, we're going to do we got to throw in Ace of Spades, right? Just because everybody wants to hear Paranoid from Black Sabbath, right? So we're going to do that too. But once you start writing your own material, it's important that everybody kind of has a way to contribute to all of that. So especially before you go into the studio, and you have to have something special there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So. Got a couple of questions. First one is from Jessie581. She asks, what's your process of writing songs? What comes first? Well,
it could be any one of certain things. Usually Benny and I, guitar player, we do most of the writing in the band. So it might be a lick that you have, or you might come up with a hook or a chorus someplace, and you might come up with a theme that you wanted to do or a riff, And then what happens is then we start to woodshed, right? You get down there and you start jamming. And if once you've got that hook, right? Once you've got either a vocal hook or you've got a cool lick or a cool hook, then you can start to really get the process done. And basically what we'll do is try to get some kind of an outline together, and hopefully come up with a lyric that makes sense and sounds cool with some cool guitar stuff. And then we might take and put down just a basic drum pattern, right? Just to, not so much for the drummer to copy, but just so you have the groove and the feel and the timing. And then we bring the rest of the guys in and everybody adds their certain spices to it. And, if it's good, we'll move on. If it's not, it's out the door. You got to be brutal. And that's what I meant about having friends and people that you play with that are honest, right? And you got to be honest with each other. You go, that song sucks. That didn't come out the way we want. We're going to put that on the shelf because that's not right. Instead of, you don't patronize each other, and if it's good, everybody knows it's good, right? So that process is, you have to be brutal before you start to take it anywhere else. It has to be able to work inside the group.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Jesse. So what has the band been up to, especially over the last 12 months or so?
Well, we just released a new EP called Mad as Hatters. You can check it out on Spotify. You can go to our website, AxMinsterBand.com, give it a listen. Making videos, sending out stuff to people like yourself, other DJs, getting some press, doing the Spotify thing and the Apple Music and the Amazon and trying. We're still in a discovery phase, even though we've been doing it for a long time. It's you try to meet new people, that's the big thing. It's like, what I've found is, there's no magic bullet to this stuff. You really have to, I believe in building relationships one at a time. It's like, this is important to me that you are interested in talking to me about my music. And, I consider that important. So it's like, it's not just like, let me get 50,000 followers. I'd rather have 2,000 that are really interested in what you're doing than just a bunch that are like passing through the night, So I kind of believe in this stuff as one brick at a time. And that's what we're doing. I never played music to be a rock star. I played music because I wanted to do it, and I still do it for the same reason. And meeting new people is the coolest part about all of that. And that's what we're continuing to do. And hopefully, this new EP will lead to another one, and we'll keep making videos. And if people keep listening and they're interested, we'll just keep doing it,
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about the history of this new EP?
Well, it's been a process. We started after the pandemic. We got back together again. We haven't been together all the way through 1983. We did go into some other bands and we did some other stuff. But when we got back together seriously again, back in probably 2018 or so, when we really started to do some things again, we decided we were going to record, and we put out a 6-song EP. It was called Tightrope, and just wanted to toss it out there to see if people were interested, and they were. So I'm like, okay, this is great. We recorded it all at home. We did it all in Pro Tools, and did some videos that went along with it. People were interested. Did a couple of small festival in our area. And the next thing we did is we decided to do another EP. And instead of trying to do 6, we decided we were only going to do 4 because we wanted to pass this off to someone who could really mix it really well. And we have an old friend of ours, his name's Bob St. John, who's an engineer producer. He's worked with Extreme, which are another band from our era and from around here. He's worked with Extreme, Collective Soul, Duran Duran, just a bunch of Dawkins. And he mixed the record for us, mixed the 4-song EP, and it was really well received. So that record was called Bada Boom, and now we just decided to do it again. That was back in 2023 or so, and now we put a 4-song EP together called Mad as Hatters, and he did the same thing. He mixed it, and it's great. We're really, really happy with it.
Cool. And now you've just today you've just released the new song Rat Race.
Rat Race, yep. Yeah, the video just came out today. So I sent it to you early. Thanks for giving it a like. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, it's I think one of the things, if you look at the theme of Mad as Hatters, I think there's a little bit of angst and frustration in all the songs, right? I think that has to do with kind of the state of the world. First single we put out was "World Gone Crazy," and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then Rat Race. I mean, it seems like everybody's just, maybe it's me, but it seems like everybody's running at a frantic pace these days, right? Everything is just trying to keep up with the Joneses, and it's like, why? What's the clock trying to tell you? You can never beat the clock, We have a couple other songs. The next one is going to be a song called "Down to the Wire," which is again about frustration and trying to get to the end. And then "You Monkey," another song called "You Monkey," which will be coming out, which is just about having a monkey on your back. That can be anything from a drug to a bad relationship to a bad gig. So yeah, there's a theme in all of this Mad as Hatters, and I think it has to do with some of the political climate. We got wars all over Europe, and it seems like people are edgy, so the writing kind of followed suit.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So we've got a sort of a comment from Lisaboo regarding Rat Race. She says, "Love the new song."
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's got some attitude to it. It's like, I think if you look at the lyrics, it's just about running stuff at a crazy pace, and you sometimes just want to step off, and it's cool to do that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Lisa. We've got a question from Lisaboo. She says, of all the AxMinster songs you do you have a favorite?
They're all like children, right? In a lot of ways, it's they all have a certain place, a certain time stamp. When I look back at stuff that we wrote in the early '80s, it's like, yeah, I mean, it ain't about fast cars and fast women anymore, which is what we were writing about back in the early '80s. But all those things have they all have an important part. They all have something to say at the time when they were written. So I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite to play. It's really just there's a whole catalog of them, and I like most of the material that we put out. So it's like they're all children. Like, you love them equally.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's that sort of question is which child do you love the most, type of thing. So yeah, thank you for that, Lisaboo. Are you writing any sort of like new material for the next EP or the next album?
Always writing. I mean, you're always writing. You can see behind me, this is my little work area. It's like, I get a little digital recorder, and I hum ideas into it, or I'll grab a guitar and throw a lick down, and always writing, always in the middle of trying to find the next swan song, right? That's the trick. It's just part of the DNA now, right? It's something that we always do, and some of it is worthy, some of it I'll erase, but yeah, it's like therapy, right? You have to kind of write.
Yeah, true. Lisaboo has just said, "Love the guitars behind you."
Yeah, I got a couple back there. There's that one over this shoulder here. That's my Dan Electro. That's a 6-string baritone, and then I got a Les Paul Jr. there, and I got my favorite Telecaster right there. I don't have my 72 Les Paul out, but those are all my babies. Some of my babies.
Yeah. Speaking of sort of like writing and guitars, when you do when you do sit down and actually start writing a song, which instrument do you go for first to say, "Oh, I've got something in my head. Let's sort of, I want which instrument do you go to first?"
It's usually a guitar, right? Usually pick up a guitar. I have a keyboard stuffed over in the corner too, and the keyboard's good if I'm trying to figure out patterns. because if we want to put down, if I'm looking for some kind of harmony in the hook, or I'm looking for progression, it's more linear, so I can get to a basic chord quicker. But it's usually pick up a guitar. Always I have an acoustic up in the bedroom, and I'll pick that up too, and just like hum that into an iPhone, so at least I can remember the thing that I thought was good.
Yeah. And then when you do sort of like take that sort of like idea to the band, do you sort of like does the band sort of like pick up their respective instruments and say, oh, if I've got I've got an idea that might work with that particular idea?
Sure. Like I said, Benny, he's the maestro guitar player. I'll come up with the basic stuff, and he's got such a great music theory background. He'll come up with the different voicings, and I'll explain to him, what I'm thinking lyrically. And once we've got a lasso around the thing, then we'll bring it to the band and say, okay, guys, what are you thinking? And that's when the drummer will add, hey, what if we put this kind of groove here, and the bass player and we'll jam, and everybody kind of adds their spices to it. That's usually the way it works. I try not to bring, nothing's really finished. I don't really finish anything until everybody has their say in it, pretty much. I want it to be a collaborative effort. And, I'm not a virtuoso on all those instruments. I got enough just to be dangerous. But it's great to have the input of the band, because once that happens, it becomes electric, right? And everybody's contributing, and it's got a real human feel to it. I find that, I don't think there's too many artists out there that can do everything. Maybe like Prince, he was somebody that could do everything and really bring in other people. I love the collaborative thing. I love being able to share that with everybody and say, hey, what do you guys think? Where should we take this? How does this sound? What are you thinking?
Yeah, cool. Cool. Sticking with the instruments. Lisaboo has just asked a question: is there an instrument you've always wanted to learn?
Yeah, I wish I could play the saxophone. Because the saxophone is such a growly instrument. If you put a saxophone with a guitar together, they sound really cool, right? Because they're got that wind instrument with the guitar. When you play them together, they're great. And that's another bit, Edgar Winter, right? The Edgar Winter group. Edgar Winter played saxophone, and you mix that with like Ronnie Montrose's guitar or Rick Derringer's guitar. That stuff sounded so cool, right? Go back and listen to Frankenstein, and listen to the solo. The saxophone player that he plays in that. Saxophone's a cool instrument. Yeah, I wish I learned to play the saxophone.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Lisa.
I'd be afraid to try it now, because the dog might be running around the house screaming if I started picking that thing up.
Yeah. Right. Got a question from Jesse581. Do you have any plans to do gigs abroad in the future? And if so, which country would you love to visit the most?
Definitely England. I'd love to go over and play. That'd be awesome. I'd love to visit. I haven't been. I'd love to visit the country. I mean, there's so much history there. Boston is kind of like an offshoot in a lot of ways. So there is a connection there, and then just the history of, just going to London and seeing the scene there and what it is. So are we planning to travel abroad? There's been talk about doing some gigs. Yeah, we probably, it has to be right as far as where we would travel to, because it's so expensive to kind of do that. It really is to pull that all together. You have to really have definitive plans. There's some friends of ours called Spread Eagle. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're from Boston. They were a New York City band, and they're over in the UK touring now. So I can't wait for them to get back, because I want to ask them kind of how that went.
Yeah. Would you sort of like to start off with do like sort of like the East Coast tour?
Yeah, that'd be the first thing. We'd probably like to jump on and do a support for some band doing some smaller halls and things like that. That would be something that'd be very interesting to us. Or when people roll into town. We've been asked to open for a couple of people too. So that's something we've been really thinking about. I mean, we got to play with so many great bands over the years. I mean, we opened for Metallica, Twisted Sister, Lita Ford, Alvin Lee 10 years after, Foghat, Molly Hatchet. So I got to play some really cool shows over the years. So, I think, loading equipment into some godforsaken venue for 10 people, I kind of been there, done that. I'm not saying I'm too good for that, but it's like, it has to have a purpose to play now, and I want it to be in front of some people who are interested in kind of who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah. I know since COVID times, it's just like the venues are not there anymore now.
No, not like they used to be, man. They used to be. I mean, I can only speak for New England in this scene, but it was thriving. I mean, you'd play on any given night. I mean, we were playing as an original band now, playing all original material. We were playing 3-4 nights a week all the time, from Maine all the way down to Connecticut, New York City, and there was always a gig, and we got paid pretty well too. Clubs were packed. So that was a heyday of terrestrial radio too, that when they would play unsigned artists, they would stick you in with there was a local station here called WBCN at the time, which is a 50,000 watt powerhouse. They broke so many bands, and to be able to get in rotation, I'm not talking like a Sunday night midnight show. I mean, you were getting played at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd play Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Deep Purple, AxMinster, Foghat, Twisted. So you were in rotation, and so there was an opportunity to really build a following. So the support was here with the magazines and the nightclubs, and just being able to support other bands and build your way up, and it's too bad because there's still some good 1,500, 3,000 seaters in here, but not some of the smaller 200 and 300 capacity clubs that you used to be able to play to kind of get your chops worked out, right? Know what it means to play a real gig.
Yeah. It's a shame that some of these smaller venues is just like saying no financially viable.
It's terrible. It's too bad. I don't know how bands do it. I mean, it's like I see bands out there. There's a band called Dirty Honey that I really like. They're a great rock band, and I see that they're doing the circuit and they're playing the same size venue, right? Whereas before, like I mentioned, I saw AC/DC at this club called the Paradise, which was 500 seater. The next time through, they were paying a 2,500 seater. The next time through, they were playing the Boston Garden. So there was a growth, right? There was a way to grow the audience. Now it seems like it's kind of stuck, and bands are staying out on the road and hopefully selling enough merchandise to do the next thing. The label support isn't there anymore. If there's even any more record labels, I don't know what they're doing for new artists. I don't see it,
It's getting out on the road, especially for bands who actually love performing live. It's pretty hard.
It's hard. It's hard to stay out there too. It's expensive, right? So you're trying to just keep the wheel moving, to make the next thing, and it's too bad because I if you look at the top of the charts, you don't see like bands as much as you used to. There's solo artists and individual artists, but you don't see the bands. It's hard to keep a band together now. It really is,
Yeah, it is. I've just seen a question from Lisaboo. Wait, not a question, but more of a sort of like statement. We need to support the artists.
Well, and guys like you are doing that, right? You're out there getting it done. It's like, people just, I don't know if it's easier now than it ever was. I mean, you can record in your basement now. You can, with Pro Tools, you can put stuff on YouTube and distribute. You can get stuff on Spotify. So it's easier now than it's ever been to get new music, but it's it seems like it's just fleeting, right? People don't really dive into the bands like they used to and really support the bands like they used to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid growing up in this in the like late 70s, early 80s, like going on to up to the 90s, where when you discovered a new band, you sort of like really delve into like all the history, the back
Yeah.
catalogue.
And you bought the record, right? You went out and you bought the record.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you bought the T-shirt. And when they rolled into town, you bought the concert ticket. So you think about how much investment you had in that particular band, you know. So it was part of your DNA. It was part of your daily life, right? That, and now it's like, yeah, you know, why would I buy the record? I can listen to the whole thing on YouTube. Why should I buy it, right? I can listen to it, you know. And that's the hard part. I don't know where the industry's going. I'm not sure, and especially with all this AI stuff, which is a whole nother hill of beans, you know.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult, you know, for groups to continue, you know.
Yeah. It's starting to get to the point now where it's just like it's for the sort of like I wouldn't say the casual. I would say the casual listener. You just like think, is that real or is that AI type of thing?
I don't know. It's a good question, right?
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, the bands that you followed, you weren't a casual listener, right?
No.
You were into it. I mean, I wasn't a casual AC/DC listener, right? I listened to the records. I bought them all, you know. If they came into town, I went, you know. So when the bands that we were passionate about, we weren't casual listeners, you know. And even a band that was on the edge, right? I mean, you might take a flyer on it and say, you know, I'm going to go buy that record. It's got a couple of good tunes on. I'm going to buy that record. You know, now it's like, you know, it's all about singles, right? That's the reason why, you know, you do an EP. It's like they tell you, you know, everything you read says don't release a full record. Don't release even an EP. Do all singles, right? Because that way it's all about algorithms and stuff. It's just like, and you can get real caught up in that stuff too, right? How many clicks? Who's listening? Where are they listening to? You know, it's like, you have to be aware of some of that stuff because that's the business now. But just write good tunes and just play and put good music out, you know. And that's got to be first and foremost, you know.
Yeah. It's that's the thing with me. I always say, look, no, when I sort of like delve into like intro band, I always try and listen to at least 75% of their music to actually say, okay, this band's good. You know what I mean? Because they've written good music.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they're real, right? You can tell if a band is real, you know, whatever the quality is of it, you can tell if it's real. And I think that still cuts through, right? I can tell a band when it's real, you know, and that's important, you know, because some of it is so homogenized and so stripped down and so formulated that, you know, I start to wonder. It's like, is how much of this is manufactured and how much of this is real, you know?
Yeah.
And you wonder, is there ever going to be, you know, with the way things are, can you ever have another Rolling Stones? You know, can you ever have another, you know, Van Halen? I mean, will anything like that ever come out again? Because everything's so, you know, all about clicks and everything else. And you know, it's like just,
Yeah.
you know, those bands just got out and played and people follow.
Yeah. One of my favorite bands is AxMinster, and they've been sort of like been going since 1975, and they went out and did all the hard work by going out and touring and doing this and doing that and writing songs, and they enjoyed because Steve Harris wrote good songs.
I'll say, I mean, that band is phenomenal, you know, just phenomenal. And I mean, I love their early stuff, too. I mean, I love Killers. I mean, I love Paul Di'Anno, right? I mean, that record is still. I love that record. It's a different era. I mean, I don't think there would have ever been the Arena Act without Bruce Dickinson, right? I don't think that could have ever happened, you know. But the all that stuff was just great rock and roll.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely because basically put the work in. They put the work into like honing their craft, playing live.
I mean, when they toured, I mean, they rolled into town. They played a place here not too long ago called the Worcester Centrum, which is probably 14,000 seats. I mean, they go out to Brazil and they're playing for like, I don't know, 300,000 people, but you wouldn't know the difference because they go out and they look like they're playing for 1 million people when that band hits the stage. I mean, they just perform. They're fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen them 3 times. Once with Bailey, and twice with Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just they were amazing. I've watched them with Bailey in a 5,000 seat venue, and I've seen I've seen them twice with Bruce, both times in like a 15,000 arena.
Yeah,
and it's just like, don't get us wrong, I do like I know there's a bit of controversy with Bailey, and says, oh yeah, he didn't pick with Iron Maiden. We should have gotten Bruce back. But when I saw him, he was good.
Yeah.
Not as good as Bruce, admittedly, but he was still good.
You can just tell, right, when you hear him when they play. It's not. I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think it's the seasoned veteran players that they are. Right, they just know. It's like even Judas Priest, who's getting I mean, Rob Halford's getting a little old up there, but still, when they come out and they play and they hit those chords, it's like, man, this thing is just it's just kicking your ass. It's just knocking you back, right? You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's just like some of the older bands who started out, say, whether it be in the 60s or the 70s or even the 80s, they put the work in. They know how to perform. They know how to sort of like play to the crowd.
And you play. That's back to what we were talking about. We play. We're a live band. We play. There's everybody sings, everybody works on the material, and we play. We play, and you go because that's what you have to do. You have to go and suck for a while until you figure it out. It takes time. It takes, and you scratch your head. Okay, I can't do that again. I got to do this again. And that's how you learn how to play, how to get in front of an audience, that doesn't know you from anything, and you got to try to win them over. And if you're opening for somebody, you got a half an hour to do that. And you better have your shit together, and you better be able to play hard and fast and on time and not all over the place and sell it. You gotta go right after the audience and say, I know you came to see this band, but I want you to listen to this, and you're gonna dig this, and here it is. And that comes with a certain kind of attitude. It's like, yeah, we're good. You're gonna love this. And people, they can sense that. They can sense if you feel that, because that audience, that participation. And again, some of the bands we're talking about, they did this stuff in front of 10, 15 people when they first started. So they have it down. It's like that's just magnifying what they already brought to the table. And that's the attitude you got to have.
Yeah, definitely. Because over the years, I've been to that many gigs. Granted, there's only been a handful of bands that I've literally walked out on because they basically sucked big time.
Right, sure.
And it's just like they were just standing there on stage doing nothing. The only reason why they were there was getting a paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah,
which is wrong attitude.
And after you've seen great bands play, it's like you know what you paid for, you know what you're expecting, it's like you go out and you watch Rory Gallagher play, you know what I mean? He just rip your head off, you know what I mean? You might not even know one of his songs, but I saw him and he just tore the roof off the place, I mean, God rest his soul, but I mean, it's like, these are great players, great players that knew how to perform.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen I've seen Cooper, I've seen AC/DC, I've seen Maiden, I've seen Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, I've seen what I mean, all the big bands, and when they hit the stage, they hit the stage running, and they all like once they get in front of the crowd, they want your blood. They want to like literally just like they play and they play for like what I mean. There's been times where I've literally seen people being dragged out of the mosh pits, covered in blood.
Yeah, I mean, you see Van Halen, when they after that first record, when they came out after that first record, I saw them in a club called Paradise, which is here in Boston. I don't know, maybe 500-seat club max, and they just come out and they just tore the roof off the place. I mean, just come out and just rip it up, and you can't help but be engaged, right? Because they're just into it,
Yeah, definitely. Especially when their bands are like really getting into it, where they actually rip up the crowd so much. They're doing like I said, they're doing doing all the mosh pits.
Yeah.
Some of them been doing like getting the crowd so worked up, they're doing the walls of death. I was like, what I mean? It's like that's how powerful some of these bands are.
Right.
Get the crowd.
Like you watch Lemmy from Motorhead. You know what I mean? When he come out on the stage, it's like, especially when I love the band when he had Fast Eddie Clark. I mean, it's like they come out and they're playing. It's like you if you don't buy into that, you don't like rock and roll. You know what I mean? It's like that stuff is phenomenal. And bands like that's the template, right? That's the stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we've got a couple more questions from the chat here. One more question from the chat. We did the tour. Lisaboo has. Do you have a favorite venue to play? It's a two-part question. And do you have a dream venue to play?
Yeah, I would love to play. Our home arena, the Boston Garden, would be great to open for someone. That would be fantastic to play there. And a venue to play. There was a club that we used to play. It's closed now. It's called Bunratty's, which was here in Allston, which is a real working class neighborhood. A lot of biker groups would go in there, and they were the best audience. I mean, they would just come in there and they just wanted to hear rock and roll. And that was a fun place to play. That was one of our favorite clubs, and we played there a lot. And we really built our chops in there, because you go in there and you better have your shit together, because if not, you will not be back, and you won't want to come back. So it's that was a place you went in and you worked, and they appreciated it, and they were drinking beer, and they wanted to have fun, and they wanted to hear live music, and that's the good stuff. So that was one of our favorite places. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. So, is there any sort of like plans on doing any merchandise?
Yeah, on our website we got some T-shirts and hats and stuff. I think we're going to do another run. We'd love if you'd click on and take a look at it. We're looking to do some other stuff. I think that's the next thing. We're going to take this Maddest Hatters theme and put some merchandise, because people have asked. So that's the plan. We're also thinking about pressing something too. Pressing maybe either like I was talking about, doing vinyl as a kind of a collector's kind of thing. If I can get a short enough run that's not too expensive, that would be something we'd like to do.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because I was going to ask, I was going to ask you about the vinyl. I think you've already answered it. So would there be sort of like any CDs, stuff like that, with for the
Another thing, yeah, I think that's because we've been doing these short EPs. We're thinking about doing a compilation of taking like the best of the next 2 or 3 EPs together and combining them into one collective work. That's probably something we'd want to do. I think that'll be on the next round. We'll probably be back in the studio, let's say sometime in the spring, and bang out another 4 or 5 songs, and then we'll probably put some compilation together. I would bet that that's going to be the plan, and then maybe do some kind of a short tour run on that as well.
Cool. Cool. Just got to look at the questions. So where can people? I know you mentioned a couple of your social medias, but where can people find you on social media so they can sort of like keep up to date with what's happening in AxMinster?
Yeah, we'd love you to visit our website, AxMinsterBand.com. Right there, you can find all our material, all the songs. You can find all the history of the band and look at some pictures when we were young and sexy, and watch our videos, and Facebook friend us. We're on Instagram. All the links are there, and we're always interested in meeting new people. Always, it's cool to connect with people. I love to hear new bands. I love to connect with people that are interested in still checking out some of the kind of tunes that we do, and love to hear the new bands too.
Cool. Yeah. So, guys in the chat, if you've got any more questions, please ask away. We're going to be starting to wrap things up in the next 5-10 minutes or so. So, any advice for people who want to become a musician, whether it might be sort of like for their own personal pleasure or possibly going down the commercial route?
Play. Just go play. Don't get all hung up and don't get all hung up in all the peripheral stuff, because you can't worry about things you can't control. It's like, go find some guys that you can, if you're looking for a band kind of thing, go find some guys or girls or whatever that you can play with, and just go jam, get in the garage, jam, and have fun. That's one of the things that we've always done. I mean, we've been close, right, to getting signed so many times. We've showcased. There were record deals on the table, so to speak, and we had lawyers and managers. But the bottom line is, the guys who I play with now are pretty much the same guys that I played with in the 80s. And it's because we've always remained friends. Nothing was ever crazy enough to fight about. Nothing was ever, so go play and go in the garage. If you're starting out, go in the garage and jam and stink and get better and better and have fun. And if it's good, people will come and listen to it. I was reading something about Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters was saying the same thing, and it was so true. You know what I mean? That's what he did. I'm sure that's what all these guys did when they first started. Just go in and play, and if it's good, people will dig it. And if they don't, and you love it, then that's cool too.
Cool. Yeah. Sound advice there. Enjoy it, clear, and then you never know what might come out of it.
That's right. Yeah. Do it for you first, right? You got to do it for you, because if you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for fame, and you're doing it for stuff that you don't know what's at the other side of it. So you don't know what you're diving into. And if you may get someplace, because the journey's the reward, right? That's the whole gist of it. If you write a cool song and you can share it and somebody else likes it, that's a home run, right? That's a home run, man.
Yeah. Craig Mawson, that's just unfortunately came in a little bit late. He says, "Are you doing any gigs in the UK?"
We'd love to. I mean, that's like we talked about earlier. It's something that's on the bucket list. We'd love to come over and play. I think it's going to London, coming up to where you guys are, and maybe even going down to like where AxMinster is. That'd be fun. That's something that we really would love to do. And yes, we have some merchandise. It is on our website, AxMinsterBand.com. Take a look. T-shirts, hats, and you can even pick up a CD too if you're interested. And we're going to be coming out with some new merch soon.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you, Craig. So, any final words before we start wrapping things up?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is great. I love meeting new people. You know, you're somebody that is passionate about music. You're out there helping artists who are trying to get it done, and that's a key. You know, that's awesome. And you know, the music business is a funky place. You know, and I think that the opportunity to meet people that are passionate about music and have the same taste, it's kind of what holds the world together, right? I mean, there's a lot of craziness out there, but music is something that is a glue that I think binds a lot of us, and you know, that's the cool part.
Yeah, I totally agree that music is sort of like universal, where it doesn't matter what genre of music it is, music is sort of like universal, where people can get together and actually enjoy whatever genre it is.
It's good for the soul, right?
Yeah.
When you listen to music, don't you feel kind of relaxed? It's like everything else, just all this regular stuff just comes off your shoulders, you know? We need more of that. We need more of that.
Definitely, definitely. You can when you listen to a album or a collection of songs, you can sort of like shut away the outside world for an hour and just completely relax.
Right? I mean, that's therapy, man. That's therapy.
Yeah, true. It is. It is. It is. Yeah. So thank you so much, Steve, for coming on and doing this little interview. It's been a complete and utter pleasure.
It's the same here.
Yeah, it's been a complete pleasure.
Thank you so
guys,
much.
yeah, my pleasure. So, guys, in the chat, if you haven't checked out AxMinster, please do. All the links are in the description, and Lisaboo and Jesse501 have been posting out in the chat there. So go check them out. These guys are absolutely brilliant. And check out Madazahata and the EP and the new song, Rat Race.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Al. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. It was great to finally see you. So that's good stuff. And we'll be in touch. We'll be sending our stuff to you all the time. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, totally appreciate it. So, guys, until next time, we'll catch you all later.